There are a bunch of major headlines coming out of the White House tonight after President Trump signed a series of proclamations behind closed doors. That includes a sweeping travel ban on 12 countries with a partial restriction on 7 others.
Hey there, breaking news out of the White House right now. President Trump has once again announced a travel ban. Now, apparently this is similar to the one he enacted during his first term in office.
President Trump says a new travel ban impacting 12 countries will take effect.
First term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies. By the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them.
When you want to kick out someone, like this. That's true, right?
I don't think he's too worried about the travel ban. He doesn't know what the travel ban is, I don't think, Johnny.
There are questions about the impact President Trump's travel ban could have on athletes and fans trying to get into this country.
In our last video, we broke down how Trump's visa ban could cost the U.S. billions during the 2026 World Cup. That policy is threatening to lock out fans from entire countries, putting the American tournament at risk of half-empty stadiums and major sponsor backlash. But what happens if Canada steps up and takes those matches instead? Stay tuned to see how Canada could earn over $1 billion in new economic activity with just a handful of extra games. The scenario isn't just about soccer, it's about global influence, jobs, and a shift in who gets to call themselves the real winner of 2026. Now, imagine the 2026 World Cup opening in North America, but entire blocks of seats in US stadiums are left vacant. This isn't about ticket demand. Fans from a dozen countries, including Iran, would be shut out because of Trump's proposed visa ban. Iran has already qualified for the tournament, so this isn't just a theoretical risk. FIFA President Gianni Infantino has made it clear that restricting fan movement undermines everything the tournament stands for, repeating that football unites the world. Sponsors are watching closely. Major brands have poured hundreds of millions into World Cup partnerships, expecting full stadiums and global participation. If visa restrictions keep fans away, those sponsors could face penalty clauses tied to attendance guarantees, potentially costing them millions. The financial fallout doesn't stop there. Industry research shows that visa delays in the past have led to nearly a 10% drop in international visitors for major US events. If something similar happens in 2026, the US stands to lose hundreds of millions in tourism revenue, not to mention the ripple effect on hotels, restaurants, and local businesses. The situation gets even worse when you look at specific matches. For example, if a marquee game like Iran versus Portugal is held in Los Angeles, tens of thousands of seats could remain empty if Iranian fans can't travel. That means a massive loss in ticket sales and local spending. FIFA's own documents suggest the total impact across all group stage games involving affected nations could run into the hundreds of millions. FIFA's choices are limited. They can pressure the US government for special exemptions, which looks unlikely. They can accept the financial hit, which sponsors and host cities will hate. Or they can shift matches to a country with fewer travel barriers. That's where Canada comes in. Unlike the US, Canada's open-door policy and ready-to-go stadiums in Vancouver and Toronto offer a straightforward solution. Moving just 5 to 7 high-risk matches north would keep sponsors satisfied and avoid the PR disaster of empty stands. The timeline is tight. FIFA usually locks in match locations about 18 months before the tournament, and decisions must be made. If US immigration policy stays unpredictable, Canada could see its share of games jump well beyond the current allocation. The potential economic upside for Canada is enormous. Canada stands to gain more than just bragging rights if matches shift north. The FIFA Economic Impact Assessment shows that just 10 extra World Cup games could bring $1.2 billion in added economic activity to Canada. Right now, Canada is set for 13 matches in Toronto and Vancouver. But with 104 games scheduled across North America, even a small increase in Canada's share makes a major difference. On the jobs front, each World Cup match in Canada is projected to generate about 1,850 temporary positions, ushers, stadium staff, hospitality workers, and more. That's a higher per match average than either the US or Mexico, according to the same report. These are short-term jobs, but the sudden surge in employment will be felt across both cities and their suburbs. The money doesn't just flow through stadiums. 4 sectors see the biggest spikes. Hotels push their rates to record highs. During peak events in Vancouver, the average room already tops $300 a night. Airlines add new direct flights from Europe and South America to handle the influx of fans. Telecom providers like Bell and Rogers prepare for massive spikes in data usage, with international visitors burning through roaming packages. Local transportation revenue also jumps. In 1994, U.S. host cities saw public transit and taxi revenues double during the tournament, and Canadian cities expect a similar pattern. Sponsors are already preparing for a possible shift. Emirates Airlines has contingency plans to move their hospitality suites and fan zones north if visa issues disrupt U.S. matches. Visa, one of FIFA's top global partners, has signaled it will redirect major promotional spending to wherever the largest international crowds go. When sponsors see uncertainty in the U.S., their money follows the fans. And right now, Canada looks like the safer bet. Secondary markets stand to benefit too. Cities like Montreal and Edmonton meet FIFA's requirements and could quickly host team training sites or fan festivals. This means the economic impact won't just be limited to Toronto and Vancouver. Other regions will get a piece of the action. The infrastructure is already in place. Vancouver's BC Place has 54,000 seats. Toronto's BMO Field will reach 45,000 after expansion. These venues are ready, while some U.S. stadiums still face construction delays. FIFA wants certainty, and Canada's facilities give them that. There are challenges. Vancouver's tourism board warns that some fans might stay across the border in Washington state to save money. Toronto's hotel taxes could push visitors to short-term rentals that don't feed city budgets. But compared to the risk of empty stadiums, these are manageable problems. What's clear is that the World Cup would give Canada a massive economic boost, and it could be just the start. Soft power is where Canada could see its biggest gains. The World Cup isn't just about sports, it's a signal to the rest of the world that Canada is open for business when others aren't. At a time when U.S. organizers face political uncertainty and unpredictable visa policies, Canada's stable reputation stands out. Event planners, sponsors, and international federations are already taking notice. There are real examples of this shift. The 2023 Global Forum on AI Ethics, originally planned for San Francisco, moved to Quebec in part because of U.S. visa complications. Microsoft moved its Global Developer Conference to Vancouver after Seattle's visa delays left 15% of attendees stranded, according to PBS reporting. These aren't isolated cases. FIFA's contract for the 2026 World Cup allows them to reassign matches with just 90 days' notice if a host city can't guarantee access, and Canada's predictability makes it an easy backup. Toronto's Pearson Airport, with U.S. pre-clearance for over 30 countries, gives it a logistical edge over American hubs. Vancouver's Convention Center has handled events like the TED Conference for years, showing it can support thousands of delegates. Montreal's bilingualism makes it a favorite for European and UN gatherings, and the city hosted COP15 biodiversity talks when China withdrew. Corporate sponsors aren't just worried about logistics, they want reliable branding. When the U.S. faces protests or travel bans, sponsors look for safer alternatives. Canadian cities have developed a reputation for managing protests with fewer disruptions. During the 2021 climate protests in Ottawa, police avoided the kind of tear gas incidents that have become common at U.S. events. FIFA even cited this low-conflict approach when selecting Canadian host cities. Of course, there are trade-offs. Quebec's French language requirements can complicate planning for international events. In British Columbia, provincial statements put the likely public cost of hosting the World Cup between $85 and $145 million. Labor costs in Canada run about 18% higher than comparable U.S. cities. Delegates from Asia sometimes complain about longer travel times to Canadian destinations compared to the U.S. West Coast. But for many organizers and sponsors, these are manageable compared to the risk of last-minute visa denials or political flare-ups south of the border. Long-term experts say Canada could attract up to 40% of major international events currently destined for the U.S. by 2035 if it manages a smooth World Cup. Toronto has already lined up 17 downtown venues as turnkey ready for global conferences between 2026 and 2030. But even as Canada's soft power rises, the country faces new scrutiny over the costs and trade-offs of hosting these mega events. Costs and complications are at the center of Canada's World Cup debate. In Vancouver, the provincial government agreed to cover all cost overruns for hosting, and the Finance Ministry projects a net cost between $85 and $145 million after factoring in revenue, but internal estimates put the total outlay between $532 and $624 million. That's a huge range, and it's all taxpayer money on the line. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation has warned that if revenues fall short, taxpayers could be left covering the deficit. People haven't forgotten the 2010 Olympics, where Vancouver spent $600 million on transit upgrades that still draw criticism for underuse. In Toronto, the Port Lands redevelopment is tied to BMO Field's expansion, and the city faces similar questions about legacy costs. Security and coordination add another layer of complexity. Canada's federal border agencies control customs, while local police handle stadium security, and FIFA's requirements for team protection are stricter than what Canadian cities usually provide. That means every host city needs to ramp up operations, and these costs aren't always visible in the headline numbers. Then there are the hidden expenses. Toronto will spend $12 million just to install temporary field turf at BMO Field to meet FIFA's standards. Vancouver's tourism officials say hotel prices may spike so high that fans choose to stay in Washington state, pulling revenue across the border. If Montreal steps in as a training site, Olympic Stadium needs $20 million in urgent renovations. These aren't one-time costs. They can ripple out to affect local budgets for years. Toronto's numbers are also under the microscope. The city secretariat has budgeted $380 million for hosting, with a federal grant of $104 million. But the Auditor General launched a probe after contracts with FIFA were amended behind closed doors. Vancouver City Council is demanding quarterly security spending updates to keep a closer watch. The federal government capped its support at $45 million per host city, so any overruns will fall to local taxpayers. Brands will follow crowds. Many have contingency clauses to reassign budgets if match attendance falters. Sponsors want packed stadiums and global exposure, and their money moves fast if they see empty seats or logistical problems. All of this means the stakes are high. Every dollar spent and every decision made will be scrutinized as the tournament draws closer. The balance between economic gain and public risk is not simple, and how Canada navigates these realities will shape more than just the outcome of a soccer tournament. Canada's World Cup windfall reaches well beyond stadiums. This is more than a sports story. It's about shifting global influence. With the US facing visa uncertainty, Canada is already capturing a growing share of global events as sponsors look for stability. Dollars follow predictability, and that trend is clear. According to Deloitte and FIFA research, 10 extra matches could mean $1.2 billion in new activity and 18,500 jobs for Canada. Vancouver's security costs are drawing scrutiny, while Toronto's media exposure is seen as a strong return on investment. Where brands move fan zones and broadcast crews, that's the real indicator to watch. If Canada can deliver smooth matches where the US stumbles, 2026 may herald a new era of global event hosting.